I am Lara Kilgore with Beyond Education, and this is Inga Cotton with SA Charter Moms joining me. We tried at least 12 times to go live on Facebook, found out you can no longer join conversations on Facebook, tried again on Instagram, got cut off at least 4 times, so now we're just scrapping all of it, recording a video, and we're going to share it with you because there's lots of good information that we want to share, and we're tired of being cut off. But we were valiant, very valiant in our efforts in the live broadcasting. So maybe at some point I'll spend more money and time and do live stream in a more sophisticated way. But for right now, we're gonna roll with this. So
yes, we are.
But how are you doing, Inga? What does it look like over there?
I'm good. So my kids have been kind of in and out the kitchen door, playing in the backyard. They have a bouncy ball that they're playing with, and thankfully it's not raining yet, and so we're just kind of going low tech, for part of the day, and then other parts of the day there's screen time. So everything in moderation, right?
Yeah, we're 4 days, 3 days, 4 days. I'm losing track of time already into spring break number 2.
Yeah.
How is the sanity level in the Cotton household?
So it feels like the reality is sinking in that we don't get to do a lot of things that we're used to doing, right? So like my kids normally go to school 5 days a week. They're with their classmates, they're with their teachers, and they're not doing any of that right now. And then also like all the people who follow, like SA Charter Moms or me, Inga M Cotton on social media, they see us going lots of places around town. We're always trying to see what are the new exhibits and what are the concerts and plays, and pretty much everything got canceled. So we're not able to do our usual stuff. So even like back when I homeschooled my son when he was in 1st grade, we went to and we had a fistful of memberships, and that was like every day was a field trip, and that was kind of our approach to homeschooling, and we can't do that now.
Right. Yeah, totally changes the game. And I know just watching the different mom blogs, including SA Charter Moms and other Facebook groups that I'm a part of, the moms are kind of getting a little stir crazy. I'm seeing a lot of conversations about like, okay, we've watched as much Netflix, as much Disney Plus, we've done every free activity we can, like, what are we gonna do? And I know that I've mentioned this to you before, and I just think it's so interesting right now. I saw over the last 2 years this shift in homeschooling, kind of like what we're seeing, what you've seen and experienced very intimately, and where your nonprofit grew out of was this desire for more school choice and school option, right? And so when I started Beyond Education, we were working predominantly with private schools and public schools, and San Antonio was still very young in terms of our charter population. Now I would say that we're much more advanced, but kind of had this homeschool opportunity come into our laps. I wasn't homeschooled at all. I was a public school kid, born and raised. And so to dive into the homeschool environment seemed so unusual, and it was circumstance kind of similar to yours of why this person went into homeschooling. But what I've noticed over the last 2 years is the conversation has really shifted where parents are more open-minded to homeschooling. And so it's just very interesting to me to see now that we're in this situation where we're now being forced to homeschool. And the beauty of it is that, and we've mentioned this on some of our previous takes on our Instagram lives, it didn't go well, but with the fact that there are so many resources that I think we're being forced now to use, that were always there, but now we're really having to utilize them well. So if you can talk a little bit about what the conversations that are being had on SA Charter Moms Facebook group, which is an awesome resource, and what you're seeing out there.
Yeah, so we've had to do a big shift in what SA Charter Moms is doing. So like before everything got canceled, what we were working on was like helping parents to navigate school choice, like helping them know what school options are out there. So charter schools is where a lot of the growth has been lately, as you mentioned. And so that's in the name of our organization.
Sorry to interrupt you. You guys have over 7,000. Sorry.
Oh yeah, we have over 6,000 members in the group, and the group has grown
And
over
it's
time.
constant.
Yeah.
Constant communication. I mean, I'm on there, I can't keep up. Thank goodness you have people monitoring it. But I mean, it's just such really positive interactions of parents just looking for options, really authentic insight from parents who are at different schools. So it's a very active group.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so yeah, San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. So if you're not a member yet, please join. And we welcome new members all the time. So what we often do, like in normal times, what we do is people join and they say something like, "Hey, I saw a billboard for IDEA," or like, "My neighbor said I should apply for my kid to go to Great Hearts." And then parents who have kids at those schools will comment on like, "Oh, what I love it. IDEA, like we had this carnival and we have this reading program," or and then it gives you that like that real life, what's it like at that school. But all of a sudden, like we are all accidental homeschoolers all of a sudden, and so we feel like we try to step into that gap and we have a thread about school closures so families can get up to date on like what their school is doing or know what other schools are doing, know what's happening with STAR testing, which by the way is canceled, so don't worry about it. What's happening with like meal programs, but then also we have
all the kids are rejoicing, by the way, and the teachers, and although they're overwhelmed now with the distance learning planning, but STAR test is a big stressor.
Yeah, that takes the pressure off. Yeah. So we have a thread we call the solutions thread. And so people are commenting to recommend resources. So like if your kids are restless, try like video tutorials for kids yoga. If they need to get their creative energy out, then follow along with a children's book artist who does Facebook Lives every afternoon. If your kid wants to pick up an instrument, there are local places that do music lessons and they'll do online lessons. I think my daughter just photobombed us a minute ago.
It's like that CNN video. They come in.
Oh, Ness is really photobombing.
Now it's a real photobomb. See, there you go. Welcome to homeschool.
That's right. Yeah, like we shared that classic clip. It was on BBC. There was a North Korea expert, and he was in a suit and tie, probably wearing jeans, and he's on live TV, and then like his toddler busts into the room, and then the baby in the walker busts into the room,
and he's trying to hold her back.
That is
and then
real
the
life.
mom's crawling to grab them. It doesn't happen. Like everybody's sitting there like, look guys, we get it. You have kids, we've all been there. That's every parent who's now remotely working of like, do we have boundaries? Is this even realistic? At this point, should I just plop my kid in my lap and be like, look, this is life.
Yep.
So, yeah, no, I love that. I know that parents are looking for all sorts of solutions. And so what Beyond Education has done is we're sending out now a weekly, and we may up it to bi-weekly, twice a week, emails just going out with lists of resources. And we're trying our best to have just different age groups and age appropriate and what's free and not free. Although a lot of these educational resources have offered now 30-day free trials because they know parents are scrambling for resources. So it's been quite interesting. But do you know, have you heard anything yet on the schools as far as how they're moving forward, and what's your understanding, whether just of Great Hearts or any of the other schools that you heard about?
So I have information about some schools. I think for a lot of schools, they declared this week, which is March 16th through 20th, they just declared that as like spring break part 2, but it's really like professional development, or it's teacher work days. So like the teachers have been at work and the administrators have been at work, and they've been preparing the lessons. So now I know, so Basis got started right away. I think maybe on Tuesday they had, yeah. So the feedback I got from parents was, I need more ink. Like I'm running out of paper.
Right.
So pro tip.
So now we don't have toilet paper, we don't have Kleenex, and we're about to run out of ink print cartridges and printing paper. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, right. The stores are good. Yeah. So anyway, if you know your school will be doing this next week, go ahead and order some paper and some ink, you know, or so it's interesting the different like adaptations that people came up with. So if you don't own a printer and you don't necessarily want to buy one, you can like send the packet to a print shop like FedEx Office or Office Depot, you know, and you know, it's, I guess if you're practicing extreme social distancing, you can't go to a store, but you know, if you're just quick in and out, yeah, it's probably okay to go to a store.
And another option that I use, and I switched over, I used to travel with a whiteboard everywhere and kids would love writing on the whiteboard. And then I switched over to be more green and just to have all my files be digital. I use an iPad with an Apple Pencil or really any tablet with a stylus, and I can download any digital worksheet, which obviously everything that's going home is digital, and then write out my answers and easily email or text or however I need to send it. I can print it as well, but to save that paper. I mean, obviously that's a huge cost burden, but I know a lot of parents, kids already have iPads and are using it for screen time. So if they have the capability to add a stylus or an Apple Pencil, and then just download, Notability is the one I use, but I know there's a lot of different options. That could be an option too.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the important thing about this time is to be as flexible as possible. And I think that the best thing that the schools can do is try to meet families where they're at. So I think that I'm gonna, like, my son has an Apple Pencil for his iPad, so I'm gonna download that app and play with it. I think he'll like it. Now his for basis, when they got feedback from parents, like, so a lot of schools are doing online surveys to find out what the capabilities are for that each family can, how much resources they can put into doing the work at home, what technology they have at home, and then like basis during the week they've added having printed packets that families can go pick up. So for some families they can download it, and for other families they can go pick it up. And so it's giving them that option, you know, to do it. Like for some it's harder to drive, and for some it's harder to print. So they'll try to meet them where they're at.
Well, I know one of the things that I've seen, and I actually just got a bunch of emails forwarded yesterday from a parent who has kids at various schools. And from what it looks like, this particular school is basically looking at going all online. So we're talking about junior and high school students, which I think is what they're going to try out. So basically having a normal school day, 8:30 to 3:30, and you're just on Zoom or on Google Hangouts or Google Classroom all day. So I'm really interested to see what the feedback is and how the conversation evolves with parents and kids and teachers as well. You know, I'm on another thread, and I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's a specific one for the situation that we're in right now. And it was a teacher being very honest and vulnerable and saying, like, I'm already so overwhelmed. I'm trying to teach and do a Google Hangout with, I think it was elementary school age kids, while I have my toddler in the background trying to distract and whatnot. You know, so I'm sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, these teachers are in the same boat as all the parents. You know, we're all in this together. And I think you really hit the nail on the head as far as just being flexible and having really just open communication. I mean, for anybody who's ever homeschooled their parents or homeschooled their kids before this situation arose, you know, I feel like the whole flexibility mindset is something that they have to adapt really quickly. And it's something that we find we have to coach our families through who are transitioning into homeschooling, because it's not a super structured, like you have class period 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you go to lunch. You have to be okay with the ebbs and flows. And I'm assuming you and your son kind of went through that in finding what your routine was.
Yeah. So one thing they'll be interested to watch is that, and I've heard some comments from schools about this, that I guess, so one thing about homeschooling is that you can be more adaptive to each kid, but I'm wondering, like, what will schools do to try to adapt the work to each kid? Now, I have heard that for kids who are in special ed, they'll get packets that include notes about their accommodations, so then the parents will be able to take, like, okay, well, here's the packet, here's what most students are expected to read, but for this student, you know, here's how we modify it to fit their IEP, right? so I guess that's coming from the school. I guess as a homeschooler with a kid with special needs, I mean, we were able to like go advance in some areas and then really like put some things on hold that I just felt like just he was asynchronous. Like it just wasn't the time for those things, right? So like for example, handwriting, we kind of put that on hold, and then when he got to second grade, he caught up a lot. So one thing I've heard from schools is they recognize that what the work that we parents do at home, it's not going to be as consistent, and there may not be as much kind of monitoring of progress. And so like when things hopefully go back to normal, and kids are able to go to the classroom again, there may be some reteaching, and there may be some catching up that the schools need to do. I guess so my advice to families is basically like the schools and the teachers, they're aware of that. They know that there's going to be gaps. They know that there's going to be review that they'll need to do next school year once things get going again. And so don't stress about it and don't blame yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's so much to already invoke stress that, I mean, even myself, as a small business owner, you know, I find myself having to constantly revert. If you're in education, you've talked about growth versus fixed mindset. That's kind of one of the hot words, right? So I find myself having to constantly think, okay, growth mindset. And, you know, you'll hear of anybody who runs a small business or is an entrepreneur, like you have to be innovative. So I kind of keep giving myself these pep talks and affirmations of like, okay, Lara, you're in this unique time where you get to come up with unique solutions. You know, and I think kind of for parents as well, like you are in this time and place right now. Everybody's understanding that this is not what we expected. This is totally uncharted territory. And so you've got to kind of drop your expectations and just say, I'm going to focus on the fact that I get more time with my kids, that we get more rest time. I don't know about you, but I've been getting a little bit more sleep because my to-do list just looks a little different. And I've just prioritized rest in the midst of all this. You know, we're still churning out a lot of stuff, but I'm like, I'm just going to shut it off a little bit earlier and wake up a little bit later. But, you know, prioritizing rest and, you know, letting your kids just kind of enjoy and have fun, and seeking out these free resources that are on the solutions thread with SA Charter Moms discussion group, through emails like what we're sending out, and other companies and all the Instagram pages that are, you know, providing resources. But you just kind of have to take a breath, you know, and just let it flow, and everybody's walking through this together. So
yeah, I mean, you mentioned, so if a school is doing it more structured, where, you know, they have online calls at certain times, that's still a fairly structured day. But if it's something where, you know, they send home a packet, I guess one thing that you've probably helped clients learn is that when you're homeschooling, especially with elementary school kids, it does not take a 6 to 8 hour day to homeschool an elementary school kid. Like, I mean, there's maybe like 2 hours of real like butt in the chair, pencil to paper work,
and not contiguous, right? We're talking like maybe 15 to 20 minutes, go take a snack, go run outside, go do a Go Noodle video, something, come back. And same with high schoolers and middle schoolers. You know, right now we've worked with students all the way up to sophomore year. And to your point, yeah, I mean, it takes us about, if you're diligent, 3 total hours, maybe 3 to 4 hours to get through an entire school day, which people can't believe that. They're like, what? You can get back to them. Like, yeah, if you take out the classroom management and passing periods and all the other fluff, you know, trying to contain a class.
Even just getting your books on your desk and getting your books back in your backpack, all that.
Right, if you take all that out, yeah, it's a shorter period of time for sure. So yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying is exactly on point. It's going to look a little bit shorter, and that's okay. You know, and that's probably a little bit healthier for everybody anyway.
And also too, like if your kid is really into something, right? Like let's say you set out some materials and they're doing a science project and they just want to run with it, or they're like, what if I add vinegar? What if I put it in the sun? What if I grab this flashlight? You know, roll with it. And that's one of the joys of homeschooling, really. And it can be hard, like for my son with autism, transitions can be hard, and especially as a young kid, when it was time to put the math manipulatives away, that would break his little heart. He wanted to keep doing math.
Yeah, I've been really surprised. So we have started going virtual. I mean, we started doing virtual sessions before all this because we had some mentors who had really great connections with families and they wanted to continue. And so we've been doing Zoom sessions over the last year and a half, all the way up to calculus and MCAT. I mean, again, all of these technological resources, you can do all of these things because of what's out there. But what we're now doing is moving towards virtual one-on-one sessions, and even our homeschoolers were doing virtual, and I've been blown away. I've been texting the parent, I'm like, we're actually even more productive than when we were doing it in person because of the transitions. But I mean, one of the things that we're trying to get information out to families is if they need extra hands on deck or virtual hands on deck and support, you know, we are scheduling and offering more virtual sessions. So even though they may have a Google Hangouts or a virtual class with their teacher, they may still need some extra help, you know, and so meeting with them on Zoom or on FaceTime and going through those topics and really moving at their pace to make sure that they're getting what they need. And we've totally changed our pricing to try and accommodate that, because we're talking about more time and more hours. So we've dropped a lot of our prices to help families, you know, give them more opportunity to have a few more hours with more one-on-one support.
Yeah. So we had, speaking of kind of budgeting and stuff, we had a family conversation thinking about like, okay, we're not eating out. Now, just as a note, you can support your local businesses by getting takeout. But we've been mostly cooking from home. And we were realizing that some of the trips we had planned for early in the summer are probably not realistic at this point. So we're looking at what were we spending on food and what were we going to spend on travel, and how do we reallocate that to make life better while we're kind of cooped up, right? So we decided like Apple just announced what the new MacBook Airs are like. They look pretty spiffy. So there's actually a 2 terabyte solid state drive MacBook Air now.
Wow.
So, you know, so technology is something, you know, if you want to invest in more technology because you're cooped up, maybe that makes sense to your family, or, you know, asking for help, right? Because I think that's part of, you know, just, you know, giving yourself grace to know, like, look, I'm not the expert on everything, but there are people like, you know, the tutors at Beyond Education who are experts, you know, like they've taught science before, and or, you know, if your kids need help with advanced math, that's not your thing, you know, just, you know, be humble and get the help you need.
Or if you just need, a lot of it right now that we're hearing are parents who are working remotely who are just like, we just need them to go and do something for a little bit, virtual, in person, like we just need an hour or two. So yeah, which we get, totally understand. So wow, I love that. Well, just to kind of wrap it up and sign off here soon, what are some ways that they can stay engaged with SA Charter Moms and with you to just continue to find resources and know what's going on with schools?
Yeah, I would say that the most active place right now is our Facebook group. And so that's the San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. So just ask to join. Yeah, we're approaching 7,000 members. So there's lots of other people in the same situation you are, and they're all sharing resources and trying to help each other. And it really is an upbeat community. You know, we're all in a tough situation, but you know, we it's closely moderated, and we keep it positive and helpful. So you can be vulnerable there and say, hey, this is a challenge I'm facing. You'll find people who are in your shoes and giving you real answers and not criticizing you. You know, we're all dealing with this. So the other thing, I'm going live on the SA Charter Moms Facebook page every morning. I shoot for 9 a.m. Sometimes it's a little 9:15ish. Yeah. But
I mean, with us, we shot for 10 and we didn't really actually get it done until 10:30, and now we're just doing pre-recorded videos. So.
Right. So
you do your best.
So we'll say 9-ish on weekdays, and so I'm talking about, you know, kind of real life as, you know, working, homeschooling, and trying to practice social distancing. And like, so today we talked about emotional needs, and I think tomorrow we're going to talk about food. So like the meal programs and cooking at home and things like that. So
I love that.
you know, different topic each day. I miss my people. I miss my, you know, events and my team, and so trying to use video to keep the connection going.
Yeah, I love that. A friend of mine has really responded by being hyper positive and just seeing, there's a lot of ability to stress and then to stress other people. And even, it made me realize even the things that I'm sharing, like being really attuned of, okay, is this positive or is this just feeding into this fear mongering? And so I think, like you said, you know, as much as we can stay positive, still be vulnerable. You can still be vulnerable and authentic, and not, you know, just be negative and be overwhelmed, but just keeping positive during this time and being really mindful of how you're interacting with people, whether it's online, whether it's through Zoom or FaceTime or whatever, because we're all in this together. So, you know, we've just got to be really kind to each other. But well, I want to thank you for doing this. This is hopefully one of many to come. You know, I've mentioned this before, I've been dragging my feet on doing more videos. And so thanks to social distancing, now I have this time to do it. So one of the things that I'm thankful for. But I hope you guys have a great day. Keep washing your hands, stay healthy, and stay in touch with SA Charter Moms and Beyond Education for lots of free resources. So,
All right, thanks, Laura.
bye.